everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I keep thinking, we called the show weekly, so we should do one a week. Well, we've started doing 2 a week. And it's just been 2 a week, except during the season, it's 3 a week. Somehow we're in the heart of the off season. And it's like, I think we're going to do 4 shows this week. Like what? We need to have a conference and maybe consider renaming the show. This Buckeye, maybe Buckeye way too frequently, something like that. Does that work as a name?
Quad weekly, or because that's, you get the whole bi-weekly. Is that 2 times a week or every 2 weeks? People will be like, I'm not going to listen to a show that's on every 4 months. It's like, no. It's or every 4 weeks. It's like, no, it's 4 times a week. And the thing is, like, not too long ago, I don't know, we're talking maybe like, do you go back to just 1 a week during the off season, during the dead period of the summer, because you've got vacations and stuff like that, and there's nothing going on. But Tom, there's constantly stuff going on and constantly stuff to talk about, and this was no different. You were at camp yesterday while you were there with the host of others from Buckeye Scoop. Dallan Hayden committed, the 4-star running back out of Memphis. We had mentioned on a previous show this week, be it Mondays or Tuesdays, that this was going to be happening. Mondays, I believe. Tuesday was his birthday, and so that's why he committed then. Number 24 running back. Yesterday, I said, and I can't believe we're talking yesterday, like the weekly show. Yeah, on yesterday's show, I said he was the number 4 running back. I misspoke, obviously. He's number 24 running back, 4-star, number 237, number 7 in the state of Tennessee. I think we both agree he's going to be the lone running back in this class because of what's already on campus and what's to come, because the information we keep getting out of the 2023 guys is they're going to have a shot at landing 2 of the top 4 or 5 guys in the nation. So you need to create some separation between just a glut, because right now there's a bunch of guys in the running back room. Although we can talk about this maybe later, we don't need to, but maybe Steel Chambers is adding to linebacker finally, but that's a totally different subject. But Dallan Hayden, 2022 helps maybe clear some space for 2023. Speak on it, please.
He's someone who our recruiting guys say basically can just kind of do everything. He's not the single best at anything. He's just like a really good all-around running back who can, he's fast. He doesn't get caught from behind, can run between the tackles, can catch passes out of the backfield, good blocker, like just kind of does everything really well, which is what you want. If you're going to take one guy in a class, that's what you want. You want the guy. You don't want to just like, well, we've got a really good receiving back in this class, but he can't really run between the tackles, but that's okay because we'll get more next year. It's like, you want a guy who can kind of do a little bit of everything if you're going to do the one back thing in a class. And it makes sense to do the one back thing in this class because you got Travion Henderson and Evan Pryor in 21. As you mentioned, they're feeling pretty good about 2 guys for 23. So you don't need, that room is already like stocked to the brim with, they have 6 guys now who are like legitimate guys who could contribute this year. There's no possible way you can play 6 running backs. So, either someone's going to end up transferring, someone's going to end up shifting positions. We saw Steel Chambers at camp a couple weeks ago, last week, 2 weeks ago. He was over at one point with the linebackers. He was with the we were told he's still a running back, but obviously there's, at least some possibility there. That has been something that has sort of been discussed for quite a while, and they keep saying no, and it's like, well, I didn't see any of the other running backs hanging out over with the linebackers, so maybe. So yeah, that's going to be worth keeping an eye on. But you're right. This is if you're going to take one guy in a class, this is the year to do it. And this is the guy to do it with, because you can, like you said, sort of spread out your depth chart so you don't have, 6 guys in 3 years where you're not going to be able to keep 6 running backs happy in the span of 3 years. Like that's not possible. There are not enough footballs to go around, especially with as much as they're going to be throwing the ball. So this seems like a very logical, good, very logical guy to plug into that spot. I think they're very happy with what they got, and now just kind of cross that one off the shopping list for this offseason.
Yeah, and I mentioned on previous show this week how I like the way he's good in traffic. I think he's got good vision and can see, just can avoid guys in the second level. I had mentioned he's similar to J.K. Dobbins in that somebody on the message board said it's similar to Trey Sermon. And that's exactly right. Like Trey Sermon isn't the biggest guy, isn't the fastest guy, but it has really good balance and is good in that second level. I mean, we saw that against Clemson and Northwestern where he's getting hit by linebackers and it doesn't matter. And he's still dodging people and getting away from people. And I think there's some similarity to Vernon there and to Dallan Hayden. You mentioned then Steel Chambers. Like if Rowan McCullough is one of the linebackers you're playing in the spring, like no offense to Rowan, he's a long snapper. Like you don't necessarily see that. So maybe they're finally coming around to that realization that we need you here at linebacker. We've tried the running back, and the thing is, Tom, poor Steel Chambers, he's only averaging like 7, 8, 9 yards a carry. Like but it's just not good enough.
And the linebacker depth is a concern. This is something we talked about earlier in the week as well. Paulie Naiote is in fact in Columbus. Turns out there was not another Paulie Naiote who, shockingly, I know it was in fact the correct Paulie Naiote. Am I just practicing saying his name because I figure I'm going to have to say it a bunch? Look, maybe I'm not here to talk about the past. The point is that is a spot where they were real thin this spring. Now you've got, you got Naiote there. If they do end up moving Steel Chambers, again, there's a spot there probably for him to at least be a contributor in the rotation. We'll see what the impact is on the current roster. You always have to be concerned, like you bring someone in, is that going to chase someone out? We talked earlier in the week, like, maybe Naiote fits into like the Baron Browning role, something like that last year, where you're not necessarily pushing one of the existing guys out or stealing one of the existing guys' roles. We'll kind of have to see how that plays out. I can't wait to not get answers to those questions as fall camp opens. That'll be wonderful. It's going to be my favorite time of year. But yeah, that was for sure a position like linebacker and corner this spring were the two that was just like, at least at the spring game with the guys who were out, and are those guys out long term? Like, probably not. But those are the two positions at the spring game that like, they are like desperately thin there right now. So a little more depth there wouldn't hurt if that is in fact what happens with Steel Chambers. I
just checked the OSU directory, and in fact, there are now 2 Paulie Naiotes listed. So yes, while he is in campus, that was not the one that we were talking about, Tom. Crazy, huh? There's actually
what are the odds? What are the odds?
What are the odds? Who knew? So you were at the camp yesterday then, and some of the guys there, Brandon Innis, the number 1 receiver in 2023, Carnell Tate, another top 10 receiver out of Chicago, now at IMG. And I guess congratulations are in order to Pepper Johnson, the new IMG head coach. Pepper Johnson, former Buckeye linebacker, great. I wonder if that will help with Ohio State recruiting. We will see. Ohio State could use some help, frankly, based on what I've seen. Luke Montgomery there yesterday, Brennan Vernon. The guy I want to talk about first, and you were there to see all of it, most of it, much of it, is Luke Montgomery, because the offensive lineman out of Findlay, just based on the way he's moving, like he's going to be like a 5-star type of guy. I don't even know if he's like 260 pounds, but he's 6'5", something like that, and plays defensive end, has played tight end, is moving up to tackle. And I was just blown away by how quick his feet were, how well he moved, how athletic he was, and also like you see him getting ready to line up for one-on-ones, and you're like, he looks like a tight end right now. Like he's got the frame, but he's skinny for what you'd expect there. But he holds up well, and he's just so mobile, and I was just really impressed. And that's a guy that you can anchor the rest of your offensive line around down the road. What did you think seeing him live?
I was super impressed. You're right. He's very thin. I think 260 might honestly be high. He might be more in that 230, 240 kind of range. But he was someone who like got noticeably better during the course of the morning. Bill Green and Kirk Barton were both watching him more closely than I was. Talking to them that yesterday, it was, they said like he would start out kind of not great. He'd get coached. He'd just adjust immediately, fix whatever it was. And then all of a sudden he wasn't getting beat anymore. I think he got beat on maybe his first 1 or 2 one-on-one reps. And then just like, that was it. And then he didn't get beat anymore. and guys tried to rush him around the edge, and he was too quick. He got out there and just stonewalled people. And those drills are designed for the defensive line to win. The whole point is it's one-on-one. So if you're the left tackle in a real game, your left guard might come in and help kind of chip that guy on the inside so you can kind of cheat outside a little bit. The left guard is just standing there. The whole point is it's just one-on-one. And so it's designed for you as an offensive lineman to fail. And he kept winning, and he kept winning, and he kept winning. And it was like, okay. Kirk Barton said at one point, he said to Luke, you don't need to worry about the outside. They're not going to be able to rush you outside because you're too quick. So just, you can almost just worry about the inside. And if they try and go outside, that's fine. You're quick enough to get out there. He has to keep that quickness as he, continues to grow. He's really basically not played a whole heck of a lot of offensive line in his life. This is not someone who, has played offensive line since 6th grade or anything like that. Been a tight end, H-back kind of guy. So he is just learning the position, but already going up against some, pretty big names at camp, really did a fantastic job. I came away very impressed. We have had offensive linemen that I'm kind of looking at this month where it's like, oh, this guy has an Ohio State offer, and you're kind of looking like, well, I don't know, maybe. Like Luke Montgomery was like, yep, okay, they should get that guy because he can be pretty good. Because again, he's probably 230 or something like that right now. You've got 2 more years of high school to put some weight on, and then probably a year or so with Coach Mick. And once you get to Ohio State, if he does pick Ohio State, he's going to look very different when he's stepping on the field as in the, let's see, that'd be the fall of 2024, something like that. I mean, you're going to look very different in the 2024 spring game, 2024 fall than you do right now. But you can absolutely see the very good college left tackle in there already.
I know if you want to rile up Kirk Barton, just tell him like, gosh, the thing I like most about these camps is watching offensive linemen go one-on-one, because that's the most fair thing for them. That's the only way to judge how good they are at what they do, because it's absolutely not. It's not meant for them. It's not built for them. It's on par with having them run the 40, where like, if you do it really well, okay, I guess that means something. But if you're getting beat or you run a 5 flat or a 5.2, it's not really that detrimental. And so to be able to hold up one-on-one is interesting, and certainly something you take note of. But just the ability to apply the teaching really quickly, like you might have a minute before your next rep, and then you're putting it out there. Brennan Vernon, the 5-star defensive end out of Mentor, I believe, is that correct?
Correct.
2023 kid. He certainly looks the part as well. He's already one of the top prospects in the 2023 class. Seems like there's some Notre Dame bubbling there, an Ohio State Notre Dame battle. Just another guy who's really impressive. It's every year, every other year that you get some Ohio defensive end that is the entire nation is coveting him, and he's the next guy. I listened to your morning scoop on Wednesday, and Bill Green was almost apologetic in having labeled him the next Bosa, like the third Bosa brother, like, or fourth, I guess, after Jack Sawyer. But just putting that much pressure on him or weight on his shoulders years ago, but then to continue to see him grow, it's like, well, maybe, but let's maybe go away from that a little bit and just let him become his own person. Even though, of course, if you look at him, you're like, yes, he looks like a Bosa. Like physically, he looks like a Bosa in the face, in the shoulders, in the shrug, wherever.
In the hair, he has like a very Joey Bosa haircut. I mean, it was just, and he was asked about that and just kind of said like, I'm my own person. I'm not trying to be someone else. But I mean, yeah, it's you look at him and just the photos of him is just like it is hard to not see a Bosa there when you're looking at him. Just the size, the quickness, the hair, everything. He was another guy who, I had never seen him before in person. So I had heard Bill talk about him for quite a while. And so I was all excited to see him, and it's like, yep, okay, he'll be good. He will be a very good college player. So, he's Bill said basically he is not an Alabama guy. He talked about his visit to Clemson and just like not feeling it at all at Clemson. Like he's going to be probably a Midwest college, whether it's Ohio State or Notre Dame. I would be very hard pressed to think as a defensive lineman you would choose to not work with Larry Johnson, given Larry Johnson's track record of developing players just like you into top 5 NFL draft picks. Like there are not very many people who can match that track record. Specifically off the top of my head, I can't really think of any people who can match that track record. So that would be a pretty hard sell, but Notre Dame is appealing to a certain subsection of people. So, that is a thing that could happen, but yeah, that'll be an interesting one to watch because he is making his second trip to Notre Dame this month. I think coming up this weekend. So that'll be one to keep an eye on. We'll see how long that recruitment lasts, whether that's if that's an immediate decision, maybe that's not great for Ohio State, especially if it's right after this weekend, but we'll see. I would suspect he would probably stick around and come back for games this fall and that type of thing. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. That is less of a sure thing for Ohio State than I think people thought. Luke Montgomery, there are people trying to drum up the drama with Luke Montgomery. That sounds much more like that is very likely to be an Ohio State win. When you're talking about Notre Dame, you said subsection of people as if you meant like a lower section of people, a lesser section of people. Was that what you meant to say? A subsection of people, meaning a smaller group within the larger group.
Okay.
There's Notre Dame is, there are, you go to every Catholic high school in Ohio and especially like Cincinnati area, like there are a lot of feeder schools into Notre Dame from, some of the Cleveland Catholic schools and the Cincinnati Catholic schools and groups like that. And, there are also people who just want a smaller college experience, and Notre Dame is a smaller college experience than Ohio State. And it's not Alabama. It's not Clemson. It's, South Bend, like if you've been to South Bend, like it is a place you can be. But the Notre Dame campus itself is like very nice. It's a very pretty campus. It's a smaller school. If you want the smaller school experience, like Ohio State, Ohio State has a lot of things going for it. And realistically, when you're at Ohio State, you are, you don't know all 50,000 people. You have your group of friends, and it is kind of that smaller group thing. And I would assume that's probably even more true if you're a football player and have less day-to-day contact with the student body than the average person. But there are people for whom the Notre Dame thing really resonates. And so, if that ends up being Brennan Vernon, there's not much Ohio State can do about that. But Ohio State certainly has a lot that they can sell, in terms of professional development and, opportunity to actually win playoff games and that type of thing. So you would think that'll be a pretty strong case as well.
When you say smaller college experience, do you mean lesser?
Yes. Just to be clear, I just mean, have you seen Rudy? He's like 5'6". Like, that is literally a small college experience. Yes.
Although if Notre Dame can get a productive pass rusher out of Rudy, like they did, I've seen it in the movie. Imagine what they could do with like a Brennan Vernon. People don't think about that.
That's true. Especially if they let him line up off sides like Rudy did.
Don't even get people started, Tom. You're going to get us written letters, because that's how old Notre Dame fans are. They actually still write letters and then run down to the mailbox, or have actually their mail carrier come up to their doorstep and they hand them the letter. And make sure you get to those podcast fellas who said Rudy was offside. Until we start releasing podcasts on phonograph records, I don't think any Notre Dame fans are going to hear it, so it'll be fine. It's not a problem. I can imagine like the new theme song we would have to have, and you can hear the needle skipping on the record, and yes, it'll be great. So there's also some top receivers there: Carnell, Tate, Brandon Innis, Anthony Brown from Springfield. I know there's a couple other guys up from Florida. It sounds like people were really impressed with Carnell, Tate again. To me, if I'm going to pick like who's going to be the first 2023 commit, I know I've already gone on like Joshua Padilla. I might be switching my vote to Carnell Tate. We will see, but Brandon Innis to me is interesting because he's not the biggest guy. He's average size, like 6'1", 195, 190, something like that. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the this or not that. But for whatever reason, like whenever he's on the field, he's the best guy. And it doesn't, he doesn't have to outrun anybody, but he can. Doesn't have to outjump anybody, but he can. Doesn't have to do this, but he's able to. And it's always interesting to me when there is no one singular data point that rises somebody. Like if somebody runs a 4.2, like, oh, yes, he's okay at this, but he's a 4.25, 4.28. So boom, you put him up to like the number 2 receiver in the nation, or this guy is 6'5", 215. So that means something. But it's just, well, this guy has average size, above average speed, because, you know, a lot of speeds are inflated, and yet he's still the number 1 guy because of, I don't know, what he does on the field, I guess.
He might be the most polished of the receivers that we've seen this month. He's a really good route runner. He just does everything well. And he's also he's not the fastest. He's big and strong, but he's not the tallest. But he's also everything he does just looks easy. Like he scores a touchdown and it looks easy. He had a play where he had the quarterback overthrew him. He kind of lunged for it, stumbled, just did a front flip, like a somersault, popped up, picked up, threw the football back 40 yards from like sideline to the hash. It was just like the easiest, just like whoop, throw. Like, you know, it was like, remember Justin Fields talking about playing golf and how it was just like, it was the first time playing golf. He just like shot an 80. Like that's just him. It's just like one of those natural athletes that just like, oh, everything's just really easy for me.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see where that goes with him. And I know a lot of people like Carnell, Tate as well. So there's some talented pass catchers. We'll see if Brian Hartline can finally sign somebody of note in that 2023 class. He's got nobody so far. So that's probably a concern. Of course, no other coaches on the Ohio State roster have any commitments from 2023 either. So you wonder, like, are you guys just resting on your laurels? Do you even care anymore? Like, what are you even doing? You've already got 14 commits in the 2022 class. Let's go. Let's move. Let's get going. You've got, you know, Ryan Day said in the spring, he wakes up terrified every day about, you know, we've got to have the best this and the best that. Right now, Illinois may have a better 2023 recruiting class than Ohio State. This is not. Let's go.
I think there is some argument to be made that perhaps the 2023s just getting to start their college search process, just getting to start making visits. Don't roll your eyes at me, mister. Maybe want to take that longer than 3 weeks or so, and that may be part of the explanation. But yes, you're right. Chop, chop. Let's get on it. Yeah. One thing that I did like about Brandon Inniss yesterday, and this is one of these things that like you're either going to love or you're going to hate about a player, and it probably depends on if you as a fan have him on your team or not. They made big announcements. Don't taunt, don't talk trash, don't taunt people during these one-on-ones. Brandon Inniss caught a post. I figured out kind of where the post routes are going to run, so I stood right there. He ran his post right towards me. I've got great pictures of this route. Scores a touchdown and just spins the ball in the end zone. Coaches were not super thrilled about it, but it was like, well, he has gotten to the end zone before. He knows what to do when he gets there. He doesn't mind letting you know that he has gotten to the end zone. Does everything with a little bit of style, a little bit of pizzazz. So yeah, he is Carnell Tate. I think is, has the potential to get there. Right now, Innis might be more of a finished product than Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate has all the ability to get there at some point. And again, these are 23s. So you get a couple more years of high school. There's plenty of time, development time between now and when they actually would step on campus. Innis sounds like he's much more of a national battle. Carnell Tate sounds like he's much more likely to end up at Ohio State. But, if they get either of them, I think Brian Hartline would be very happy. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could get both. And then, it's just another classic Brian Hartline, multiple top 50 guys, wide receiver class, ho-hum, another one.
Boring. And Innis is a guy who's been playing varsity since the 8th grade, which is ridiculous to me.
In big school Florida high school football, this is not like, oh, yeah, he's playing 8-on-8, 8-on-8 in Kansas, and he's been playing since your 8th grade. No, he's playing in like big school Florida football, playing for South Florida Express 7-on-7. Like, yeah, it's maybe some of the best football in the entire nation. And there he is. So, all right, cool, good. That's probably a good sign, right? If you're playing that as an 8th grader.
Probably, unless it's an expansion high school.
Florida Marlins High School.
So Tom, that's the camp experience from Tom Orr. So thank you for that. I want to go back to the 2022 class now with the Dallan Hayden commitment. Buckeyes have 14 commitments now, which probably leaves between 9 and 11, 8 and 11 spots, somewhere in there. Just, I guess you just always assume it's going to be 25-ish, and then maybe a couple fewer, a couple more, depending. So the Buckeyes right now have 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 3 receivers, 2 tight ends, 1 offensive lineman, 0 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 3 corners, and a safety. To me, they need 3 more offensive linemen just to be sure. And right now, if I say that these 3 offensive linemen are Addison Nichols, Emil Wagner, and Ernest Green, are you okay with that? Because you've got Nichols and Wagner, say 2 tackles. You've got Taylor Chabot, who could be a tackle, probably a guard, just based on how big he is. Ernest Green is a guard. The Buckeyes don't need any more centers right now, so I think they're okay there. But you get 2 tackles and 2 guards. And then if, say, Tyler Booker wants to come in, okay.
Sure, yeah. I think that's a very solid 4-man class. You're probably missing the true left tackle. So, yes, if Tyler Booker does want to come in, I'm sure they would welcome him with open arms. I don't know how likely that is. He's an IMG kid he's out of Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut. So, we'll see. That's a possibility, but that would be, if you're going to nitpick that class, that's the nitpick, that you don't have a true left tackle, because the 2 guys who you talked about as tackles there are like guards and maybe can play right tackle, which is like, that's fine. And you need a right tackle too. That is also an important part of an offensive line. But, when I think the concern is when Paris Johnson leaves, after his potentially 2022 season, okay, then what happens at left tackle? That's kind of the concern there. So we'll see. That's it. I don't know that that's the end of the world. They probably have options there. They may just not have Paris Johnson level options there. But if they end up with those 4 offensive linemen, I think they're probably that's a class that grades out as B plus at the very least. You could argue for an A-, but I don't know if you can give class an A without a left tackle. But that is a good solid class, basically regardless.
The interesting thing is that 2023 left tackle is either on campus or he's going to be in the 2022 class, because you're not going to expect the 2023 guy to do it. So, it's got to happen. And maybe, Paris Johnson leaving after 3 years is unusual for offensive linemen. So there's every chance that he comes back for his senior year. And who knows? Last year technically didn't count. So maybe he's here even beyond that. There. Munford stayed. Who's to say that Paris Johnson won't? And Tom, don't say it, because I know you're thinking it. Yes, he won't stay for 5 or 6 years, but
probably not. I'm going to put a solid probably not on Paris Johnson being a 6-year player at Ohio State, but maybe could happen. I wouldn't necessarily plan my entire future of my program around that, but it is theoretically possible that it could happen.
Could you imagine, like, on the Ohio State recruiting board, like all the way to like 2025, they've got Paris Johnson penciled in, and it's like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to do that? Oh, no. It's that's when his eligibility runs out. Yeah, but are you sure you want to do this? And then of course they'd be like, we know what we're doing, and it's like, but if you did, how come we're always so critical? Unless
they've already started the Truman Show thing with him, where it's just like, nope. Once you cross the Olentangy, it's just sail. You put your sailboat in the Olentangy, your boat will sink. You don't want to do that. Don't cross the Olentangy. Yeah, unless they've already started that, it may be too late. But they can give it a try. I'm just sort of spitballing ideas here.
Trying the whole like Moonlight Graham thing. Like you can't. You got to stay right here.
Do you want to go be an old doctor? No, stay right here.
Exactly.
Keep playing a young football player.
Yeah, and then you work with the lantern forever.
Don't make the defensive ends.
So that's the offensive line. I think maybe one more receiver. You don't need 4, or you don't need 5. They've got 3. If it's Kojo Antwi, whomever it is, I think they try to get one more in. The defensive line for me is the concern here. Although maybe it shouldn't be, I think 4 is enough. I don't know if 4 is too many, but you figure it sounds like Hero Kanu is looking good for the Buckeyes. He's a defensive tackle. Caden Curry is looking good for the Buckeyes. That's going to go through some official visits, but he's also a defensive tackle. By the way, did you get to see Caden Curry in person yesterday?
I did very briefly. He was not working out, but he was, sort of standing and watching Larry Johnson run drills with other guys. Yeah.
Did you see why I say I don't think he's 6'5", 250?
I was not standing right next to him, but yes, he did not look noticeably taller than I am, and I'm 6'2". So
yeah, he doesn't look like a defensive tackle, especially with some of the defensive tackles they've had in here. But he was just really impressive on the field when he's actually, again, playing the position and doing well. They figure those two guys are most likely. Kenyatta Jackson takes his official visit this weekend to Ohio State, 4-star defensive end out of Florida. Maybe we'll see what goes on with him. Amari Abor from Texas has sounded like, we talked a couple weeks ago, it sounded like things are trending that way for him. So if say it's Abor, Canoe, and Curry as your three, that's not bad, but I still think you need some more there.
Yeah, they probably add a fourth guy somewhere, and I don't think defensive line is right up there with wide receiver, where it's just kind of like, if they have no one and it's November, I'm still kind of going, yeah, it'll be fine. I mean, like Larry Johnson will figure that out. It's not a problem. If you have a 5-star defensive end like Abor, you got a couple guys inside like Curry and Canoe, who are both probably 3-tech guys. They're more on the edge / 3-tech line than they are 3-tech / nose. You'd like a true nose in the class, but you don't have to have one. They just took one in Tyleik Williams. And, I think they're just kind of, if they get 4 guys, they're probably fine. If 3 of the 4 guys are those 3, you're probably really fine. There's a lot of projection moving forward where it's like, okay, how many of these guys are going to be back after next year? Because theoretically, I think they all could be back. Tyreek Smith, probably not. Zach Harrison, probably not. Put $1 in the jar on that one. Tyler Friday, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, Teron Vincent. I mean, you can go through that list, and it's like, Haskell Garrett's probably gone.
He's definitely gone.
Haskell Garrett's gone. Antoine Jackson's gone. So you're losing a couple of guys inside. Teron Vincent, I would say more likely than not is gone. Jerron Cage, I think this is his last year no matter what, if I'm remembering correctly. So you're losing a bunch of guys inside. They've kind of restocked the inside of that defensive line a little bit in recent years. So the problem is, it's like basically all of those guys could be gone, but you could also have like half to 2/3 of them back of all the guys I just named. So there's just a lot of projection and a lot of kind of figuring it out. And, there's also, they could theoretically add 1 to 2 more defensive linemen for the 2021 class, which feels like it's done, except JT Tuimoloau is still out there. Wilfredo Ibar is still out there, who is a 2022, who's now looking to reclassify, or probably has already reclassified to 2021, just to give them a little more depth at the edge position. Tuimoloau, more of an edge / 3-tech kind of guy. So there's just so many moving parts here, both with 2 guys who could be coming in, and then 3 to 9 guys who could be leaving after this year. I mean, like there's a lot. And it's like, if you tell me which of those 2 guys comes in and which of those 3 to 9 guys actually leaves, then I'll tell you exactly how many defensive linemen they need next year. But right now, like, I'm not sure I would put a real firm number out there.
Well, and it's interesting too, because do you try to fill up the class? Do you don't know who's all coming back. You have talks, but until that player says yes or no, and Ohio State has seemingly given them carte blanche to return if they want, as opposed to, you go back to what Michigan has always done with the 5th-year guys. Like, if they don't want them back, they're not allowed to come back. You apply that to everybody who played last year now. They all have that option. And at some point, does Ohio State take that option away? And it's like, or you express to them, you might want to hit that portal and go get your free year somewhere else. And there's certainly a number of guys on the defensive line that could apply to. And then you're left, I don't know if it's undermanned, but the talent that you're bringing in more immediately moves up. And I think maybe that's also a positive for Ohio State and what they would want as well. You kind of replenish, and some guys decide to move on if they want to, but there's so many moving parts with this that it's hard to say, yes, we need 25, or we got to better go with 22. And then we'll see from December to February what we have to do in there between signing days, who we can bring in. Because some of these guys are going to be waiting and they want to take their visits. And there's still a bunch of questions to be answered. So then I don't know that there's going to be any room for a linebacker unless it's somebody that blows up during the season or something like that. We assume they're going to be bringing in 2 more safeties. Let's say Xavier Nwankpa and Zion Branch. They're still bringing in corners, and I think they kind of have to keep that alive just because they may be losing, commitment corners. And so there's because right now they've got 3 guys committed in Jaheim Singletary, Jair Brown, and Ryan Turner, and all 3 have been talked about as possible decommitments at some point. And so I don't even know, do you operate like they're committed? You do, but you still have to keep working on others and also on them.
For sure. You have to actively recruit those guys like they're not committed players right now. And you have to keep other guys kind of going. And maybe you take an extra body there just on the, because you think odds are one of the 3 doesn't commit, and whether, doesn't actually sign. Whoever those 3 it is, just odds are that's how it's going to work. Because the flip side is, well, if you just kind of go, well, they're committed, what could possibly go wrong? Then you get into the situation where Ohio State is right now, where they had a bunch of those, where you had Clark Phillips a couple of years ago, committed, and then Jeff Hafley leaves for Boston College, and he flips right before signing day. I was like, well, we really needed that guy. That's too bad. Now we don't have a plan B. Same thing the year before with Jordan Battle. Flipped to Alabama like last minute when it was like, well, now it's too late to do anything about it. You have a couple of those in a row, and then you have some off-field stuff, and you have guys who just maybe don't pan out, and all of a sudden it's like what seems like it should be a well-stocked room is all of a sudden like, where'd everybody go? Because I mean, last fall Ohio State's cornerback room was, if you recall the 2020 season, Ohio State's cornerback room was a little bit of a problem last year. When you had Cam Brown go down very early in that Penn State game. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, there are 2 cornerbacks here. As long as we don't play Alabama, this should be fine, right? I don't see any problems before, and I mean, they're not on our schedule, so I'm guessing it's fine, right? And then you had 2 true freshmen in Legend Cavazos and Ryan Watson. They both were not necessarily healthy the whole year, which, you don't want to play true freshmen anyway, but it wasn't even an option with Cavazos because of injuries at points. I mean, it's just, that's how you get into a real bad situation is you have a couple late flips that you don't have a plan B kind of on the back burner for. That's how you get into trouble there. I think they have probably learned that lesson. They are still actively recruiting it. They brought in Terrence Brooks this week, I think was his name, 5-star corner. He came in for a visit this week. He didn't camp. We didn't get to see him, but he was visiting this week. They're going to try and bring in as many guys as they can. And if that chases someone else off, but you have to keep going. You can't just treat everyone as if they're 100% committed, especially if they're people who are potentially taking other visits other places. Because if you're taking other visits other places, you're not 100% committed. So Ohio State can't treat you like that.
Just flashing back to the secondary last year, I'm imagining Kerry Combs just sitting at the kitchen table with a coffee and the flames in the background, and this is fine. And it turns out it wasn't, but it wasn't. I keep trying to tell people it wasn't going to be much better or any better with Jeff Hafley. It was about the talent on hand and the experience that was lost and the experience that wasn't gained during the spring and the awful camp situation, the inability. I think what Kerry Combs said 7 times all year last year, they got to do one-on-ones between the receivers and the corners, like just because you're practicing in pods and you're doing this, and it certainly was an ideal way to gain experience in the secondary. But the good news is Ohio State still beat the heck out of Clemson. So, I mean, that has to make people happy, right?
If I recall correctly, our post-game podcast, our post-game live stream, I do recall many of the people in the comments were happy. So that story checks out. And I do want to make a point that, Ohio State, if they do only end up with 2 corners in this next class, that's not a total disaster because they're not in the spot where they've had multiple years in a row of being shorthanded. like 1 year where you have 2 guys instead of 3 is not the end of the world. You need to not miss multiple classes in a row, because they have one of the issues that they maybe are running into right now with some of the guys they're recruiting is like, hey, this is a pretty crowded room now, because they just took 6 defensive backs last year, looking at, like 5 to 6 this year. Like, that's a lot of guys coming in. And, the reason they had to do that was because they were shorthanded. So now they're kind of, patching those holes with these 2021s and 2022s. But that also means like, hey, this is not the easiest path to the field. There was a guy who was talked about as a potential transfer at one point, and it sounds like he wanted potentially a guaranteed starting spot, and they weren't going to do that because it was like, well, we've got all these other guys. So, that may take the transfer portal out of the realm of, potential solutions there. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces there, but it is, this is no longer a disaster area. This fall is probably not going to be super fantastic in the defensive backfield. I mean, it kind of depends on how Cam Brown comes back from his injury. How does Seven Banks continue to develop? How some of these other young players kind of progress along the development curve. Does Ryan Watts continue to progress as, and turn into a player that I think we both think he probably could be? How does Legend Cavazos do? He's been banged up so much. Can he stay healthy? Can he stay in the field? Can he continue to grow? There's talent there. It's just now a matter of just kind of which of these guys really, stays healthy, can continue to develop and can contribute this fall.
Yeah, it's not a disaster area, but it's like when you're at like a grocery store in the parking lot, and there's an overturned cart over like one of the sewage grates because there's been some construction going on. There's some yellow tape around it. It's like, it's not a disaster area, but there's still got to watch out for the caution tape, and there's some stuff still being fixed and addressed. But trust me, the weekend it'll get blacktopped. It's going to look so good. And so that's what's going on with the Ohio State secondary. So 14 commits right now. Let's say you add 3 on the offensive line, so that takes you to 17. 1 receiver takes you to 18. Do we say 4 defensive linemen to get you to 22? No linebackers. So we know 2 more safeties we think they're going to add, so that's 24. I think that's probably the number. I think they remain with 3 corners. It's just which 3, because that still gives you some flexibility. 24, you can go either way. So that's where I am. Am I off base on that? What do you, any criticisms?
I have lots of criticisms of you, but that seems fine. Like that's probably accurate. And again, like these numbers are always kind of moving targets, because it's like, well, 4 guys could transfer, and then all of a sudden you've got more space under the 85, or you've got, you could have decommitments. You could bring in a transfer at some point. I mean, these numbers are all kind of moving targets at this point, but 24 plus or minus 1 or so seems about right for this class. And that's probably a reasonable way to kind of, spread those scholarships out and figure out where they're going to go. But I mean, the other question that's sort of a moving target is like, okay, when you say linebacker, like, are we counting Gabe Powers as a linebacker, or is Gabe Powers an edge rusher? I mean, that's because, again, he's a linebacker in high school, but he might grow into an edge. So it's like, well, where is he counting on this exercise? There's, this is not the like clean, easy, like NCAA, video game kind of like, well, this guy's this, and that means he's this. And so there, and so we have this, and we need to fill this many holes at this spot. It's like, well, turns out these are actually people. And, does one of these guys, grow from a safety to a linebacker, or, a safety to a bullet, and then, or a bullet to a linebacker, or a linebacker to an edge. I mean, these are things that happen, and they're pretty good at projecting those, but that's just a few additional moving parts to this whole equation.
You're right, Tom. It is unfortunate that these are people.
Robot Football League. I've been saying it for years. Make it happen.
Let's take care of the umps first. Robot umps first, and then we can get to robot football. So that's some updates on what we project for the 2022 class. Some 2022 official visits coming in this weekend. We don't need to spend a huge amount of time on it. Just to give you a heads up, Jaheim Singletary and Ryan Turner are both expected in this weekend at 4 official visits. They are obviously both committed to Ohio State. One guy that I don't even know, I can't say like, I don't even know if he's on Ohio State's radar or Ohio State's on his radar. Obviously he is, because he's visiting, but Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, a 5-star defensive lineman who is the number 6 player in the nation and taking his official visit, scheduled to take it this weekend. Number 2 defensive lineman in the class. So that'll be something to watch. Where is this another one of those things where just out of the blue, Ohio State is now in the picture? Like you see all of these names listed, like Anai White, Kenyatta Jackson, other defensive ends that are Chris McClellan, the defensive tackle, who may be really in the picture. But is this Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy a guy who just now he spent the day with Larry Johnson, and that can change everything? And just being on Ohio State's campus and seeing things, and if the vibe is right, like Brennan Vernon said, he didn't get the vibe that Clemson was for him. If this guy gets the vibe that Ohio State is right for him, now you got to have to tell him, like, we don't have room for you.
Yeah, that's typically a problem you have. Like, no, thank you. Too many 5 stars. We need fewer stars in here. That's the problem. I think Larry Johnson is in the Kerry Combs and Brian Hartline conversations of all you have to do is get him in the room with a person, and then you never say never on any of that stuff. I think McClellan, of the names you just named, is probably the most likely. I think it sounds like right now to potentially join the class, but you watch Larry Johnson work, you talk to Larry Johnson. It's just like, I don't know how anyone ever says no to him. It just seems like you'd be so worried about disappointing him. It just seems like he's like your grandfather, but if your grandfather was like the best in the world at teaching defensive line, like I don't know how anyone ever says no to him. But he's just fantastic to be around. Very good at what he does, has the track record. I mean, we think we talked earlier this week about, Oregon can say, well, look, Kayvon Thibodeau is projected to be the number 2 overall player in the NFL draft next year. It's like, yeah, well, Larry Johnson just did that with like 3 guys, like defensive rookie of the year in the NFL. I mean, like, it just, the track record is there. The track record is matched. He himself is just, he's just wonderful. If you had to live in, if you had to like live in a cabin with an Ohio State football coach for like 3 months, I think Larry Johnson might be my pick, because it's just like, it'd be nice, it'd be cool, it'd be mellow. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I love Kerry Combs, I love talking to Kerry Combs, but Kerry Combs might be just a lot in an enclosed space. Like Larry Johnson, just like he would do what he needs to do. He would handle the work that needs to be done. He would be mellow. He could read you bedtime stories. I mean, he's got that nice soothing voice. I mean, I think Larry Johnson might be my pick. What about you?
Well, see, I almost don't want to go into this, because I feel like this could be another show in itself. Like, this could be one of the July shows that we set aside.
There's no slow time this year, Tony. Didn't we establish that at the top of the show?
All I know is if you're in that cabin and you're living with Kerry Combs, like, all you're doing is cutting wood, and it's just preparing for the winter. And it's like, let's go. Let's get that wood cut, and let's start, stacking it and piling it up, because, we need that wood. And you're like, but we've got so much wood already on the side of the house. I mean, we've got enough for 3 winters. And he's like, yeah, but do we have enough for 4? And you're like, no. And then you go back out and you cut some more wood.
That seems more like a Greg Schiano thing, if you ask me. But I think what you're not calculating there when you're wood cutting is, he's also going to want you to go tap the Red Bull trees, and then you got to boil down the Red Bull syrup, the Red Bull sap into syrup, and then that takes a lot of wood. Have you made maple syrup or Red Bull out of maple Red Bull sap before? No,
no, we do not. Red Bull trees are not native to Columbus.
Okay, yes. Well, go to one of the more intense climates in America, and you can find a Red Bull tree to boil down the sap to make Red Bull. That's how the pioneers did it, Tony. Not sure if you knew that. That's
how the pioneers were able to get from the coast, the Atlantic coast, all the way to the Pacific in 3 weeks. Once they found those Red Bull trees.
How did they get to Oklahoma sooner? Red Bull. Feed it to the ox. The ox just boom.
You just puncture a hole in that tree and you just start sucking that bark, man. Anything else, Tom, or should we just thankfully end right there?
I think I don't think we can possibly top that. So I think we're done for today.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. Reminder to check out BuckeyeScoop.com. Bill Green just put out another bank blog today from his last yesterday at camp, and there's stuff from yesterday. I know Alex just put out an update. Alex Flightman, the yesterday morning, Tuesday morning, put out an update of every single 2022 target that the Buckeyes are in on. I think the number came to 96 players that he had updates on. And it was absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, that's just, and I say ridiculous in a good way. Like if you're into that sort of thing, just a ton of information. So again, if you're not yet a member, I suggest you become a member and try it out. And that'll do it. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for watching, and we will talk to you later.